The CIA has already been embarrassed after former employee Edward Snowden leaked classified information which revealed top-secret global surveillance programs. He now lives in exile in Russia under threat of prosecution in the US. The latest data dump, which hasn't been authenticated, claims the CIA developed a malware to infect Android and iPhones to allow easier surveillance, but lost control of the technology. This would allow the CIA to steal data from targets overseas and turn ordinary mobile phones into surveillance tools. And having lost control of the technology, hackers worldwide could use the program to steal data.
Ordinary people, the average person, that's not who I would worry about. What I might worry about is that some of this might get into the hands of, let's say, very sophisticated criminal organizations or foreign governments and be used in a very targeted way against, let's say, activists or, people who are human rights workers. That could happen, but I don't think the average person sitting in their house needs to worry.
Another key claim, the US consulate in Frankfurt is a covert CIA hacking base, that operators work behind the walls here to spy and hack phones across Europe, North Africa and the Middle East. It's also alleged that after the Snowden affair, the Obama administration promised the US government would flag serious vulnerabilities to tech companies. But it hasn't. And that means the tech companies can't take action to fix the problems, and if the US government knows about the gaps in security, so do hackers. WikiLeaks claims this makes everyone's phone hackable, so for example, US President Donald Trump's Twitter account could be hacked.
What the CIA should do, if they really genuinely believe this information is in the hands of bad people, is they should go to the manufacturers of these devices, the phones, the software that they are exploiting, and they should make sure that the necessary patches are in place so the software isn't vulnerable anymore.
One other startling claim is that the CIA, working with the British intelligence agency MI5, developed a malware or virus which could turn Samsung smart TVs into microphones, which could then be monitored. The leak, if genuine, causes difficulties for President Trump. Throughout the election campaign, he praised the organisation for releasing details of the Clinton campaign, saying he loved WikiLeaks. Now he finds his spy agency on the receiving end of an alleged hack. The CIA has not responded to several calls for comment.
Researchers at Hong Kong Baptist University have developed a lip-reading password system. They hope to make use of the technology in areas such as customs clearance, electronic payments and security checkpoints. The technology is similar to other types of biometric recognition systems, such as fingerprint reading, but it also adds an extra layer of protection in the event of a security breach, allowing users to modify their passwords in the form of lip-syncing a phrase. According to the South China Morning Post, computer science professor Chang Yu-ming, who led the research team, said, quote, "You can use English, Cantonese or Pokemon. You can even mimic a bird chirping. The user does not even have to read the phrase aloud as the lip sequence is analysed visually." Cited in SCMP, Chaung said everyone had a different lip sequence, which means imposters would be screened out.
Researchers at Rockefeller University are developing a new technique to reset gene expression and potentially treat cancer patients with new therapies. According to the researchers, they have successfully disrupted proteins that regulate genes in order to deactivate cellular programs associated with tumor growth. The research team found that reader proteins which coordinate gene activation or inhibition are disrupted in cancer patients. For leukemia patients, these genomic parts are rearranged, fusing a gene encoding protein within a structure shared by gene-regulating proteins. Researchers think that in time, a well-designed inhibitor can correct any rearrangement to halt tumor growth.
Over the weekend, the mayor of the small Brazilian city of Linz finally tied the knot in front of 300 friends and family. The mayor, Edgar de Souza, said it wasn't supposed to be a political act, but it's the first time in Brazil that a mayor has starred in his own same-sex marriage. De Souza said that they wanted to give visibility to gay marriage and encourage others to take advantage of their rights. Same-sex marriage has been legal in Brazil since 2013 after a decision by the National Council of Justice recognized marriage as a right for same-sex couples across the country.
Disney's live-action version of Beauty and the Beast is stirring controversy overseas. Russia considered banning the kids' film because it features a gay character. One lawmaker said the film promotes propaganda of sin.
But instead of banning the film entirely, Russia's culture ministry slapped an adult rating on it. People have to be 16 years old or older to watch it in theaters. You know, there's a theater in Alabama that sort of did the same thing. They said that they wouldn't run it. But it doesn't come out until, I think it's, what does it say? What did I write down? March 17th.
Oh.
They've already done more than $120 million in pre-sales.
Because people want to see it.
Yeah.
Or they want to make a statement.
Either way.
Nike is introducing a new line of Muslim-friendly sportswear. It will include a hijab head covering featuring the Nike swoosh brand logo. The company says the new Nike Pro Hijab comes after many years of advocacy and product development. It is made of light, stretchy material and has an extended cape to keep the covering from becoming untucked during movement. A Nike swoosh is inscribed above the wearer's ears. Figure skater Zara Lauri celebrated the new product. She told Vogue Arabic, "People may think or tell you that you can't do certain things, but I'm going to show them you absolutely can. I am covered. I am Muslim."
Traditionally, marijuana and exercising doesn't really mix. But one California gym is changing that. According to Outside Magazine, the world's first cannabis gym is opening in San Francisco. The gym is called Power Plant Fitness. The facility offers the same amenities of a typical gym and wellness center, but it will also allow members to consume cannabis at the gym before and or after working out. The concept was created by 46-year-old Jim McElpine and former NFL player and Heisman Trophy winner Ricky Williams. McElpine told Outside that he hopes to shatter the lazy stigma behind smoking weed and insists the gym won't be a hangout for potheads. If you use it right, cannabis takes the things you love and lets you love them more, said McElpine. With fitness, that can help you get into the zone, into Eye of the Tiger mode. Members will also be able to purchase Power Plant's own line of marijuana edibles, of which McElpine says they are made for pre-workout focus and post-workout recovery. Research has shown that marijuana can increase a person's pain threshold and combat inflammation. Perhaps cannabis will take your next workout to new heights.
A group of activists and business leaders in Melbourne, Australia, are trying to get people to think about gender equality while waiting at a traffic stop. Several pedestrian traffic lights depicting female figures were installed at one of the city's busiest crossroads. Those behind the move says adding more female representation in public places helps in the fight against gender bias.
All right, trends on Friends. At least one school closing their doors tomorrow so teachers can have the day off to protest President Trump.
Oh, and boy, social media is fired up about this one. Here with more on today's top trends is Fox News Headlines 24/7 reporter Carly Shimkus. Hey, Carly.
Good morning. It's being called a day without a woman protest. First, there was a day without immigrants, and now there's this. Protest organizers say that the point is to highlight the economic impact that women have. So they're protesting things like workplace discrimination, the wage gap. Schools in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and Alexandria, Virginia are shutting down because so many teachers have vowed to stay home. So, of course, this is causing major blowback online already.
Are they calling in sick, or are they asking for the day
They're
off?
asking for the day off to protest.
Then what? What do women want?
Well, let's take a look at what some people on social media are saying.
That's a
larger
Watch the
question.
movie. Watch the movie.
Right. I mean, where do you start?
Ask Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
Michael on Twitter says, I employ twice as many women as men without hesitation. I will fire anyone who fails to show up for work because of a day without women. And Daniel says, hope they're helping working moms find childcare while they're shutting down schools for this. And Patricia on Twitter says, I'm a nurse, which is mostly women. If we all didn't go to work, it would be a neglect because of our oath. Now,
people would die.
A lot of people say that this should be called a day without privileged women because, or a day without women who can't afford to do this.
I would say most women can't afford not to go to work.
One of the main sponsors of this is Planned Parenthood. So Planned Parenthood has to ask themselves how they feel.
Did you hear what Brian said? You will die without women.
Exactly.
Yes.
The progressive shadow cabinet designed to rebut the president and his team on this edition of Politicking. Welcome to Politicking. I'm Larry King. In February, a group of progressive scholars, authors, and former Democratic officials launched what they're calling a shadow cabinet which it claims will decipher Donald Trump's twistifications on matters large and small. The so-called cabinet was assembled by New York City public advocate Mark Green and has as its goal to be an agency-by-agency, one-stop portal to suggest progressive alternatives to the Trump administration's policy proposals and fight what the group calls Donald Trump's creeping authoritarianism. Each person on your cabinet apes a cabinet member. You have an Attorney General, Lawrence Tribe. You have justice issues. You have labor. You have Treasury. You have the IRS. You have an education chairman. You have Rob Weissman, who's the Secretary of. You have David Friedman, Secretary of Energy. Now, as I get it, as each of these departments will make a statement as such, one of your shadow cabinet will then comment.
Well, we can't do it each statement per day. Right. That's voluminous. And like even cable or streaming video TV, there's space limits. However, when either the agency head or the president says something that is not true. I mean, Donald Trump may have had a different tone. He didn't have a different content when he implied that my family's risk of being killed by a refugee are very high in New York. There hasn't been one refugee-inspired murder from the 7 countries that he wants his ban to affect in 20 years. However, there are 33,000 gun deaths a year, and he never mentions that. So we will Larry Tribe, a famous constitutional law professor at Harvard, will comment online on big issues.
There was a deadly collision today in Biloxi, Mississippi. A freight train hit a charter bus. Jade Cunningham of our New Orleans affiliate WWL is at the scene.
Scott, just moments ago, the bus was actually pulled off of the railroad tracks after a CSX train collided with it earlier this afternoon, and witnesses we spoke with say the scene was just absolutely terrifying. According to the police chief, a bus with 46 people on board, senior citizens from Austin, Texas, got stuck on some train tracks right on Main Street in Biloxi. A CSX freight train, 3 engines, and 52 cars headed east from New Orleans to Mobile, Alabama, then broadsided the bus, dragging it about 300 feet down the track. You can see these images from the scene with the train pushed up against the left side of the bus. At least 4 people are known dead so far. 35 passengers were taken to 3 local hospitals. An additional 7 did not sustain injuries.
Well, turning now to a disturbing story out of North Carolina. A teenager is accused of first-degree murder in the gruesome death of his mother. Deputies say the 18-year-old man decapitated her, then walked out of the house holding the head and what appeared to be a butcher knife. 2 young children inside the home at the time were not injured. Investigators have not commented on a possible motive for the killing.
A number of Jewish community centers throughout the country have gotten a new series of bomb threats this week. Federal officials have investigated more than 120 threats against Jewish organizations in 36 states since January, as well as vandalism at Jewish cemeteries. 8 emailed or phone bomb threats were made in 6 states, as well as Ontario, Canada this week. Threats have also been made to the New York-based Anti-Defamation League. Many Jewish community centers have temporarily closed until the threats subside.
Australia is experiencing unprecedented extreme heat and setting new records at an alarming rate. The Angry Summer report details how the hottest on record for Sydney and Brisbane and Canberra. It also pointed out how one town in New South Wales experienced 54 consecutive days above 35 degrees Celsius. Further south, South Australia's capital city, Adelaide, endured its hottest Christmas day in 70 years.
This is Fox News Alert. Severe storms slamming western Missouri last night, bringing heavy rain and several tornadoes to that region. Check it out. Hail and strong winds pounding the suburbs of Kansas City, leaving tens of thousands without power. The National Weather Service confirming 2 tornadoes touched down north and east of the city. You can see some of the damage they left behind. Crews say 10 to 15 people ended up with minor injuries. They are expected to be okay. WDAF's Kathy Quinn shows us the scene from Oak Grove, Missouri this morning.
All right, so the interesting thing about this storm, there was a 7-mile path of this tornado which intermittently would touch down, and the damage is significant. Yet those people you talked about who are injured, just minor injuries. 3 were actually taken to the hospital, scrapes and bruises. So that's what's interesting about this storm, because the damage is just unbelievable. You had homes lifted off their foundations. You had roofs just ripped off. It was just incredible to see it. Where we are right now is Oak Grove, Missouri. This is about 25 miles east of Kansas City, Missouri. I've got the sheriff with me from Jackson County, and you said that you're not going to take any no prisoners here, no looters. You don't want them out here.
Yeah, no tolerance on the looting. We want to put it out there that if you don't belong in Oak Grove, stay out of Oak Grove right now until we can get this situation under control.
All right, very good. Lots of damage out there. It's surprising nobody was really hurt.
Right, there was a lot of damage. The tornado kind of skipped along a 7-mile path, hit and miss. We've got a lot of damage to houses in rural parts of the county, and then it came across the inner city part here in Oak Grove. And went on into Lafayette County just a little bit, so they've got a little damage over there also.
All right, thank you very much, Sheriff. All right, so once again, nearly 500 homes were damaged, and it's incredible that nobody was seriously injured. So here in Oak Grove, Missouri, they've got the place just kind of a perimeter around Oak Grove so that people can't get in or out unless they live in the area, just to make sure everybody stays safe.
Drought and famine are about more than weather or starvation. These devastations are often highly political. Many of the countries that experience these crises go through them over and over again. We're seeing this now with Somalia, and countries nearby are in danger of the same thing. But because governments are typically the ones to declare the crisis, support from the global community often comes too late. A heated conflict can create holes in aid and pretty much ruin the economy. That's what happened in Somalia. In Ethiopia, experts blame a repeating cycle of famine on the authoritarian regime. Authoritarian leaders often put power and image before people. The problem is, lasting solutions aren't being enacted to change the repetitive history. Backing and funding local farmers could help. It would not only help the local economy, but offer a sustainable way to provide food for more people than aid alone. Another idea is joining and purchasing insurance through the African Union. But one of the biggest issues is that there's not an international organization to keep watch and be the first to call a drought or famine. With climate change, droughts will happen more often, but a global effort could help.
This is what the government says it wants to stop. In one of the world's most violent countries, many killers can now be imprisoned for life, and now extortionists are being charged under terrorism laws. Extortion is one of the most common crimes in Honduras. Taxi and public transportation drivers are the prime targets. Taxi driver Noel fears retaliation if he reveals his identity. He says he can't drive through some neighborhoods. If he did, he would have to pay gangs what they call a war tax. However, Noel says he's skeptical the new law will turn things around.
With that anti-terrorism law, do you know what will happen to us? We're not only going to get robbed, we're going to get killed to be silenced.
The law also penalizes vandalism with up to 30 years in prison, and journalists say their right to freedom of expression is now at risk.
If I say over the radio that a protest is fair and tell Hondurans to join a demonstration, and suddenly there's an act of vandalism, I will be accused of promoting the march, and I will go to jail.
Critics say the law enacted last week is not only excessive, but political.
Demonstrators here believe the law is designed to suppress public dissent and pave the way for the controversial re-election of the president.
A Supreme Court ruling in 2015 voided a long-time constitutional ban allowing President Juan Orlando Hernández to run for another term. That election is in November, and crime is a national issue.
It will be presented as a successful policy, but it will be very difficult to prove that those inducing fear or using terror to intimidate people is terrorism. It will clearly show who is against and who is in favour of the proposal, and it will be easy to show people that those who oppose it are against fighting crime.
It's the first time since President Mauricio Macri took office that there's been a call from the General Workers' Confederation, Argentina's largest union, for a massive demonstration in Buenos Aires.
Que reflexionen
We want the government to reflect on what is happening. They are opening imports and people are being laid off. They have to allow salary increases because we cannot continue like this.
Thousands of people on the street, a warning to the current administration that labor unions are not happy with the government's economic policies. The next step, leaders say, will be a national strike.
A progressive government scheme in Mexico City will now see U.S. deportees trained to teach English in Mexican schools. Entirely free, the 6-week course is aimed at using the bilingual skills that returning migrants bring to Mexican society and to help them rebuild their lives in the process.
Mexico has a deficit of 80,000 English teachers. Bringing back these valuable Mexicans, we think that we would be offering a win-win situation.
Mexico City currently receives 350 deportees a week direct from the United States, 10% of whom choose to remain in the capital, many without official documentation. Marco Castillo is the founder of an organization that helps the new arrivals rebuild their lives following deportation.
These people end up trying to navigate a system they don't know, in a culture that they don't feel that they belong to, and many times against the opinion and ideas of the community that is welcoming them.
For many of Mexico City's deportee community, removal from their homes and families is the darkest period of their lives.
It's creating jobs, something is highly scarce here, we don't have jobs here, so.
When I first got here, no one would even give me a job sweeping a floor. Deportees are seen as the lowest of the low here, so it's great that the government is finally trying to help them.
Faced by daily discrimination, the scheme's founders say it will afford the marginalized deportees a new sense of identity and self-esteem.
In a ruling Tuesday, a U.S. federal judge declined to temporarily stop construction of the final section of the Dakota Access Oil Pipeline. The Standing Rock and Cheyenne River Sioux had previously asked Washington District Judge James Boasberg to ask the Army Corps of Engineers to withdraw permission for Texas-based developer Energy Transfer Partners to finish the controversial project near Lake Oahe in North Dakota. Last month, Boasberg declined the tribe's request to order an immediate halt to the construction, saying that as long as oil isn't flowing through the pipeline, there is no imminent harm to the tribes.
Lancaster County, Pennsylvania looks like a postcard where Amish farmers guide horse-drawn buggies across country roads and picturesque farms. But a battle of sorts is brewing here.
We are doing these actions from a place of pride for our community.
These protesters are being trained for nonviolent confrontation.
Yes, it does, and I certainly don't have your beliefs.
They've set up camp in a field and plan to physically block construction of a 320-kilometer natural gas pipeline that would pass nearby. Mark Clatterbuck is spearheading the effort.
Worked its way down through Northumberland County, Schuylkill County, Lebanon County.
Clatterbuck says residents living near the proposed pipeline have few options.
Because this project crosses state lines, it's regulated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and that means that they have the right to, if approved, take land against landowners' wishes to put this project in.
Opponents of the Atlantic Sunrise Pipeline say it would run through Native American reservations and sacred burial sites.
These big corporations that want to run pipelines through here have no respect for us, the land, our ancestors, and they care nothing for our Native American burial sites.
Hundreds of kilometers of natural gas and oil pipelines already run under Pennsylvania. The Williams Company says the Atlantic Sunrise Pipeline would bring close to 8,000 construction jobs and tap the state's ample natural gas reserves to heat 7 million homes and businesses. Supporters of the project say the protesters are ignoring the economic benefits.
I mean, what you see here is anarchism. And I look forward to seeing that overcome so that, again, industrial and commercial, and especially residential consumers can have the benefit of this Pennsylvania resource.
Pipeline opponents say they have been successful in delaying the project by at least a year. But time is running out. The Williams Company has already begun clearing trees and expects to begin construction on the pipeline within a few months.